critical thinkers, public speakers, and they debate.
And we have doctors, we have nurses and midwives. But you're the one who read the article and said that yes.
Introducing the iDebate TV Championship, where the best schools in Rwanda battle against each other, resolving conflicts without resulting to violence, solving problems creatively using debate. This is iDebate TV Championship.
iDebate TV Championship is almost coming to an end. Thank you for tuning in. My name is David, always your host. This is the semi-finals. We're yet to discover one more school that is going to the finals as they battle for the championship. Our motion for today is this house regrets the use of social media as a primary source of news distribution. I know you all have WhatsApp, Instagram, and whatsoever, so you will know what we are talking about. This is one where everyone gets involved. Now, the two sides. Among these two sides, only one will go to the finals. The proposition is GS Saint Bernadette Save. And the opposition is Mother Mary International School Complex. Among these two, only one will go through. The judges, Judge Sandrine Omobiei, Judge Aimé Isezerano, Judge Joselito Vaho. So, judges, how do you feel? This is the last semi-final where we get to see who's going to the finals. How do you feel?
We're excited and honored to be judging this debate. So these are all strong teams, so we look forward to what they have.
We look forward to what they have. They're going to judge them fair and square. And of course, at the end, we will know who's going to the finals. My name is David, and I'll be right back. But for now, enjoy the debating.
So can we have the first speaker from the affirmative side?
Good evening, everyone. I'm here by the names of Kevine Rusagara Irere, and I'm here to propose the motion of today's debate that states that this House regrets the rise of social media as a primary source of news distribution. I'm going to first of all explain the key terms of today's motion. Regret. Regret is that feeling of unsatisfaction, disappointment over something that one has done or failed to do. Wishing for better. We believe that social media is good, but we believe that it can also be better. Rise. Rise is the coming up of something. Social media. Social media are websites and applications that enable users to create and share content or to participate in social network. We have two types of social media. We have social networks. Social networks that include Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. We have media sharing networks, which include Instagram, YouTube, and Snapchat. Another key term is primary source of news distribution. It is the medium that reaches a wide population at the same time in a fast way. Examples of primary source of news distribution include social media, TVs, radios, books, letters, and others. So, we as the Rwanda Media Commission, as a media self-regulatory body that promotes and protects ethical practices in the media profession, we do not deny that social media is a good thing. Because it has got benefits that include fast medium of news distribution, it carries a wide population range, it gives diverse sources of information, it is an archive, and it is flexible and convenient, which we are appreciating. However, it lacks some vital elements which leads to our regrets, which are, it leaves a room for distribution of inaccurate and fake news. Secondly, there is lack of professionalism and ethical conduct of journalism. It has also become addictive, where an average social media user spends 2.5 hours only on social media, which highly affects their productivity. That is the reason why we regret. That is according to www.weforum.org. Here are examples to the reasons why we're regretting. On the fake news, during the COVID-19, people had spread false information about the opening of schools, which misled people, where some students even would go to school and find schools still closed. And that is according to the reports we got from the New Times. On the lack of professionalism, where the social media user would record or picture accident cases and spread it on social media without considering the sensitivity of those horrific images, like dead bodies, badly injured people, blood, and so on. And that is the reason why we regret the rise of social media as the primary source of news distribution. On ethical conduct of journalism, violating human rights by invading people's privacy or public humiliation, insulting someone in the public. That is another reason why we believe that we regret the rise of social media as the primary source of news distribution. And we're going to need the opposition side to answer the question that states that, is social media 100% perfect? For us, we do not believe that it is perfect. That is why we regret its rise as the primary source of news distribution. Another thing is we have an example of a man called Alfred Nobel. He designed the formula of dynamite purposely for mining, and later on, the same formula was used by the military during the World War I. And you all know what it led to. It led to the death of many people, destruction of properties, economic decline, and others. So this man died regretting for inventing the dynamite formula. The reason to why this dynamite formula was invented is not a problem, but the way it was used in the World War I is the reason to why this man regrets. So us too, we too see social media as a good thing. In the first place, it is good. We appreciate what it does. But in the stated ways, it is being used differently, which is why we too regret its rise as a primary source of news distribution. And my second speaker, Muzirangoni Dina, is going to talk about what we need after me revealing the regrets that we're having. I guess that's the job that I've already done. And my third speaker, Huibito Ishimye Arsene, is going to say what guarantee we're ensuring once all our requests have been granted. What problem will be solved? And by that, dear judges, I'm going to rest my case. Thank you.
The question I had for you is, you talked about how social media gives fake news. Do you believe that other sources of news also give fake news?
Yes.
How?
Because when those examples that you've given me give out the information which is false, that's the reason why we're regretting its rise. Because also they're also including.
So you also accept that other sources of news give fake news?
Yes, I believe that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Another question is, you said that news was given onto social media without considering the sensitivity of people and the blood and the dead bodies and everything. Yes. So would you rather that news was not given and people choose ignorance over it?
No, we choose that those information that is being brought out should be accurate. We are regretting the information which is inaccurate that is being posted on the social media. That is what we are regretting.
Do you have current status quo of other TV sources or news sources?
Yes, we do.
What is the percentage of people that choose other sources of news?
A lot of people use those social media to provide the information they want, whether reliable or not reliable.
What is the percentage of people that choose other sources of news, not social media?
Other percentage of people that choose?
Other sources of news, not social media.
There are a lot.
Thank you.
At least 60% and above. Thank you.
Speaker from the opposition side, the floor is all yours.
So good evening, judges. So the motion of today's debate reads, this House regrets the rise of social media as a primary source of news distribution. So as the proposition side wasn't able to define the keywords, I'll start by defining them. So social media are websites and applications that focus on communication, collaboration, community-based input, and among other things, content sharing. And the primary source of news distribution can be defined as the first means of getting information, meaning you can resort to the other sources of news, like TV news, but the first thing you look to is social media. Okay, so the status quo is that there is a rise in the influence of social media over over traditional fashion such as TV or newspapers. And how? Well, in 2011, about 10% of the US population turned to social media for information during a crisis. Now it has increased to 70%. This is stated by a source from theguardian.com. And so, why is this? So this is because social media, being highly used by the youth, which is the majority of the population of the world, is giving the required news that is needed. And social media is also used because it is delivering what people want, what people need, and that's basically news at a quick rate and an effective way. And social media was used because it was the only thing available. I mean, other than for the TV news, which you have to wait like what? Up till 8 in order to turn on your TV and watch. But social media would give you the news direct, live, and you wouldn't have to wait all that time to see it. And those TV news, we agree, do help. But then social media is providing something better. And for news distribution. The news distribution basically is to reach, nurture, and engage with the target audience, which is exactly what social media is doing, which is exactly what social media is about. Another reason why we do not regret the rise of social media as a primary source of news distribution is because it has increased citizen journalism. And what is this? Basically, some phenomena are happening outside the reach of a news hunter. Basically, the people that journalists, basically. And immediate action is taken which could save lives. Let's take the example of the Buffalo shootings that has happened in America. The shooter, I don't know why, took a video of himself shooting those innocent people. And we were able to find proof, which is why they were able to arrest him. Because without proof, we all know the racism that is happening. They would have never believed a white man would kill black people. And let's also take the example of George Floyd. If a person hadn't taken the video from their amateur camera, then there wouldn't have been proof. That police officer wouldn't have been arrested. And this basically provides safety because social media is acting as a source of proof. And this basically brings justice. And another reason, and to refute what the first speaker of the proposition said, saying that is social media 100% perfect? Well, that obviously is not true. Nothing is perfect. Even those traditional fashions such as TV and newspapers aren't perfect. But social media is doing what people require and what people need. And just because it is not perfect as you claimed it to be, it still doesn't change the fact that accurate news is still out there and people are getting informed. And about you saying that social media shows some atrocities and things people aren't really comfortable in watching, well, I would rather choose to see something that I'm not comfortable watching than stay ignorant for the rest of my life. So there's also the fact that social media is no filter. For example, let's take the example of Donald Trump insulting African countries. If you want to know exactly what he said, you can just turn to social media. Yes. Thank you. Any questions?
Yes. Social media reliable?
Yes, it is reliable.
How?
Because even those traditional fashions such as TV and newspapers relate to social media.
The news or the information from the traditional sources and social media is also accurate or...
Mind you that those traditional fashions such as TV and newspapers are now having accounts on those social media such as Instagram. And if it weren't reliable, would they be creating those accounts? If there aren't any questions, I rest my case in your hands.
Now we can welcome the second speaker from the proposition side.
Thank you. I begin by the names of Dina, coming from the proposition side, and I'm coming as the second speaker. Let me begin with what they said. My first speaker came and told you we're not denying that social media is really good, of which the benefits that you're presenting to us, we really agree with them, they're really good. But there are loopholes that are causing us to really regret. That's why we're saying we regret due to the loopholes that they caused, as my first speaker said. And then you told us of a person in America who was shooting a buffalo and recorded a video, and then you didn't know why the man was shooting a video. And then you told us, if you wanted to know as to why Donald Trump was insulting Africa, you would go to see the social media. And then, if at all you didn't know the reason as to why the man was shooting a buffalo, would we know why Donald Trump was insulting Africa? That's a question. And then, another thing, you told us what people need. All we need is not the one that is right for us. We may need something, but it may not be right for us. This is what I'm telling you. A young girl may want to eat 20 sweets a day, of which they will be affecting the teeth. That's what we're saying. With social media, you may need that information, but it may be affecting you physically and psychologically. And then another thing, you say they presented you different terms. But then, Judge, let me tell you what brought me here today. I am here to tell you, after my first speaker telling you the loopholes that are within the social media, what do we really want as the Random Media Commission? First of all, we're not a policy body. What we need today is that we are requesting the government to work hand in hand with the social media service providers to reinforce regulations and track those who hide behind anonymous accounts and spread unethical contents like the genocide ideologies, violence, sexual contents that harm our society. And then what are we also requesting? We are requesting the government, still working hand in hand with the social media service providers, to sensitize and train journalists to raise public awareness about the dangers and how to protect and the dangers of unethical distribution of news. This is how we want it. And then, how is the government going to help us? It is first of all going to put the journalist's code of conduct so that whoever journalists will be publishing on those social medias will be punished for whatever is putting on the social medias if at all it's not correct. Then another thing is to put concrete consequences of making a false information. Whatever false information you'll be putting onto the social medias you will be facing the consequences. Another thing, law enforcement. If at all we put their laws, those journalists that were increased as they came and told us that it's an advantage, that there is increased citizen journalism, those that will be putting false information, they will be punished with the law enforcement. Hence, we shall no longer regret the rise of social media. We shall instead appreciate it. But if at all this that we request in the government are not yet done, then we're still regretting because there are loopholes. False information is still given. We told you about the COVID-19. We told you about the information. When we talk about the information that may affect a person, you told us what a person needs. You told us not to stay ignorant. You would rather see those images that are horrific rather than staying ignorant. But there is a way they can educate you without showing you a horrific image. We can either write you rather than showing you an image. That's why, Judge, I'm still completely telling you that to regret not until the government does what we need in order to remove all those loopholes in the social media. We're not saying social media is really a bad thing. Social media is really good. As my first speaker told you, it's flexible. You get the information at the right time. You have the diversity to get all kinds of information at different sources. But provided that it still provides the wrong information, we're still regretting. Not until all these are done, we shall regret. But if at all you change, we shall praise the social media.
So, do you watch TV news?
I do.
Oh, that explains why you don't know what buffalo shootings are. So, there's also the fact that you said that the social media gives what the people need, but what people need isn't actually what they're supposed to have. Well, in that case, it's not a need, it's a want. But as you said, social media gives what the people need. So can you explain that? Can you elaborate?
You came and told us what people need. So if I told you didn't explain me the need you wanted, I would take the need the way I want to get the need that I'm talking about. So you had a task of proving me what need are you talking about rather than proving me that question right now. So if at all you're talking about a basic needs were still got. Our mothers, our grandmothers, they were getting the news from the television, and then they were getting the needed news. So I think that's not really necessary, as I've answered you.
You said that you watch television news, right? Now, if you did watch television news, you would have heard about the RISA organization, because you said that there is a loophole about the organization that do not filter out the information that is being given out, but that's the job that RISA is doing. RISA is filtering out everything that is not supposed to be in the news and actually giving out the news that is accurate, even though there is some fake news that might pass away from the boundaries. But that is what we bring again News will never be perfect.
So you've said it yourself, even though there is some wrong news, that wrong news, we don't want it. We need something that is
It
followed
will never
up.
be perfect.
And I didn't say, I'm not saying about perfection. And then I didn't say they don't filter, but I said with this, that information that is given, it needs a code of conduct. That's what I said, but I didn't say they don't filter.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
So the second speaker from the opposition side.
Thank you so much. My name is Davin, and I'm the second speaker from the opposition side. Long gone are the days when rustling through a newspaper with ink-stained fingers was the only way to get the news. Let me first start by refuting what I think the first or the second proposition side speaker said. I don't know, but the debate masters will correct me if this is a policy debate or not, because I don't see why they are bringing alternatives. And even if they're bringing alternatives, RISA as an organization in Rwanda, which they have kind of narrowed the boundary to, is already doing this. So I feel like the proposition side is really wasting time on giving us alternatives rather than showing us how other TV sources have more impacts than social media. They've given us a burden to prove if social media is really reliable, and that is what I'm about to do. They talked about addictiveness and psychological issues, but you don't take a cow to drink and force it to drink. So social media is there for us to make use of it. So us using it properly is really up to us. Is really up to the population and governments to actually curb it down. Now, side proposition, a burden. I want them to show us that other TV sources have actually achieved the goal of news distribution. And ladies and gentlemen, latest figures show that there is an expected 3.96 billion population using social media. Now, which relates to the current status quo. Many people are on social media, especially the youth. But what is the primary goal of news distribution? The primary goal of news distribution is to reach, nurture, and engage with the target audience. Now, we as the opposition side are going to show that social media has actually reached, has nurtured, and has engaged the target audience. Now, how, to begin with reaching, we already talked about how 3.96 billion uses social media. That means it has a larger audience. And when we talk about points like accessibility, how many people are going to walk to a newspaper shop and buy a newspaper and sit down and read that newspaper? So it's actually wasting people's time. It is quicker. News gets onto, for those that know, news gets onto platforms like Instagram than getting onto RBA, on getting onto Rwanda TV. When we look at what His Excellency does each and every day, all this first goes to Instagram and then goes to the Rwanda TV. They talked about false news, but ladies and gentlemen, when those that know that the Fox TV in America, it has false news. When we see Russian TV channels, these channels are actually showing that Ukraine is the one that is in wrong. I don't really know which country is in wrong, but other TV sources also have false news. Now, which is actually the main disadvantage that the side proposition was giving. And then social media has many advantages. When we look at nurturing, social media engages people. The first speaker talked about this statistic that we got from The Guardian. It shows that in 2011, only about 10% of the US population turned to social media for info during a crisis today. And today the number is closer to 70%, which shows that social media is actually saving lives. Another statistic shows that people are during 2011, people turned to social media when there was a hurricane in the United States of America, which shows that social media is actually bringing news firstly to the people, it is engaging the people, and it is nurturing the people, which is the primary goal of news distribution. Now, when we talk about effectiveness, TV sources are not effective because this information first gets onto social media and then goes to the TV sources. When you look at things like George Floyd's murder, all this was being taken place on social media. I don't know how he died, the video and everything. And then I believe the TV sources got these from the people because TV sources were not there when all this was taking place. And when you talk about saving lives, those that know what happened in the Westgate Mall in Kenya, people were trapped by terrorists. And I don't know how, let me say, if RBA was in Kenya, going to be there at the scene, but people were able to text people outside the mall that this is actually taking place. So which we actually see that social media is saving lives. It is reaching a bigger population. It is nurturing because people are able to communicate and share thoughts on what is going on. And other TV sources just blind people and take us back to the traditional ways of communication. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I would like to ask you a question. You're telling us you don't know how he died, you don't know this, so what do you know?
I don't know how he died.
You're telling us you don't know how he died. Everything you're including.
Maybe because I'm not so much into news, but I know that first went onto Instagram or any other social media platform, I know that it did not immediately go to the TV, because if the TV got it got it from people that were around. And obviously people that were around didn't run to the TV station. They first posted it on what they had near them, what was accessible, which was not the TV station.
So you don't know whether it passed on TV, that just...
No, I don't know that because I'm not interested in news. But what I know for sure is that the people first put it onto social media because that was what was in their reach.
Okay, I thought I would ask you and then you answer me.
Okay, so yeah, I think you didn't understand your question. Yeah.
What do you mean that social media is saving lives?
I just talked about an example of the people in the Westgate Mall. I talked about how you are able to know something before it's happening, like hurricanes. We talked about how only 10% of the US population turned to social media during a crisis. I don't know what the crisis was, but they turned to it during a crisis, and people wouldn't turn to TVs because it was what was in their reach. And today the number is closer to 70%.
Can you clarify the crisis to get well your information?
Can you?
Clarify what the crisis was.
Clarifying the crisis will help you understand the point. Yeah. Just understand that social media helps people know what is going to happen in the future. Thank you.
Now we can have the third speaker from the proposition side, please.
Thank you. I'm Hubito Ishmael Arsene from the proposition side. And firstly, refuting what the second speaker of the opposition side was saying, that she was not able to clarify what the crisis was, so as I would be able to understand her point or her claim. And another thing that she's just saying that social media predicts. With the predictions of the social media, she's saying that the social media is going to be saving lives. And as we all know that the predictions are not mainly factual, to mean that if someone predicts, he or she is not sure that something is going to be taking place. And as the motion of today states that this House regards the rise of social media as the primary source of news distribution. My first speaker was here and was able to tell you that we are not denying that the social media has the good effects, but the social media have the good effects, but also has the negative effects. That's why we are regretting. And our point of regret is, however small negative effect is, that's why we are regretting. So, and the opposition side were here and told us that with the traditional, or for the both traditional and the social medias, all have the inaccurate news. So that's why we are regretting. With our regret, my second speaker, Musira Nkonedina, was able to show you that the Rwanda Media Commons is here to request the government to do or to put the measures to regulate the social medias so as to be able to have the accurate information. And what I'm going to be talking about, I'm going to give you the guarantee of what if the government is going to be putting press the policies that are going to be regulating the social media or the use of social medias, we are going to have all the problems that are coming from the rise of social media as the primary source of news distribution are going to be solved. Whereby, for the first thing of the inaccurate news, the spread of accurate and credible information as the service providers will be designing the appropriate plan with the regulations, and the government will check them to find if there's no harms or loopholes to implement it and reinforce it. Because the service providers, just like the owners of Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, are the ones to design how their applications are going to be used, and the government is there to first accept that the applications are going to be used in their countries. So if the government will be proving that there are some loopholes in the design of the applications, they're not going to be allowing it. So with our request, whereby the government will be putting the policies and measures to reinforce the effective use of the social medias, the problem of inaccurate news and unethical news is going to be solved. Whereby the opposition side also raised that with both the traditional and the social medias have the spread are distributing this inaccurate information. So that's why we are not crossing our arms to look up the negative effects of social medias, and we don't do anything. That's why we are saying that we have the ground of the regrets whereby it is going to give this inaccurate and one-sided news, and we are requesting the government to put into consideration the negativities so as to implement the policies and reinforce the laws that are going to be made upon those ones who are providing or distributing the inaccurate information. And the second assurance is that with the social media service providers will make censorship on unethical content. That's the second request that we are having. So censoring the inaccurate information, the information means that the information is going to be spread, like the genocide ideology or other inaccurate information or ethical ones that are going to be harming the society or the sensitive information to be distributed. Thank you.
Question?
Yes.
Since you're the last speaker from the proposition side, could you please work on our burden? We asked you to show that if other TV sources have achieved the goal of news distribution. Since you do not regret that social media has achieved the primary source of news distribution.
Thank you. I think you misheard what we said. We say that both the ones that are considered the traditional sources of news distribution and the social medias all are having the spread or the distribution of this false information.
Yeah, but
that's why.
How have they clearly impacted? Like, show us the impacts that they have over social media.
The false information that are being distributed. One, so you know about the account of Free Resource Sabagina. And the account of Free Resource Sabagina was denying that, or was telling people to free Rusesabagina. And you know, it's a factor that Rusesabagina did take part in the genocide that happened in Rwanda in 1994.
Which distribution did that take part on?
Exactly, the account is on Instagram.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any question?
No, none.
Thanks.
We may have the last speaker of the debate, the third speaker from the opposition side.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for having me here. As the third speaker, I would first comment on what the third speaker of the proposition side has said. They were talking about the account that was on Instagram that was saying to free Rusesabagina. And then the fact that social media has, Instagram has reforms, and it's up to the public and to the people listening and receiving all that information to actually report it. And yeah, going up to what the proposition side has said, they've talked about all the inaccurate news and everything and how they have to solve it with filtering out all the bad stuff and everything like that. It cannot be filtered out because the RISA has already started to do that, and the fact that you don't understand that we have clearly stated it over and over again that in this debate we're not focusing on the alternatives because we do not regret the social media being used as the primary source of information in news distribution. And another thing that I wanted to talk about was the way that social media was being used, let's say for the Russia and Ukraine war, or normally the way social media is being distributed. News, let's say like TV, news in Russia is not the same as what we know here. The government is filtering out stuff and being like, they were saying that Ukraine was the one invading Russia, which was actually the opposite, because they filter it out to their own understanding. So if you end up filtering out what you think is right, might not be what they think is right. Another thing that I wanted to talk about was the Alfred Nobel and the way he created dynamite, right? You say that he created dynamite and he died regretting the way that dynamite was used. But the fact is, you cannot blame him spreading his research and his work and actually getting recognized to how the people actually use that news. He got recognized, and maybe he was a new researcher out of that dynamite because it was his own research and his own work and his own innovation, which is part of the social media work. The social media platforms call for innovation and to actually promote all those researchers and all those new works. Another thing that I wanted to emphasize on very much, you talked about the loopholes. There are always loopholes to everything. The same way there are loopholes to social media, there are also loopholes to the news. But the fact is that social media impacts a greater community. It impacts the youth, which is the majority of the world's population. And another thing is, my second speaker talked about, she talked about the way social media is to, the news is to reach, nurture, and engage with the target audience. And that is what social media is doing, as it's making people engage with the news by consuming the news, discovering the news, and sharing and posting the news all over. So what we compare is those two worlds. As we compare the world of having social media as the primary source of news distribution and not having social media as the primary source of news distribution will make that, first of all, there won't be that mass delivery that we always had, because most of the people go to social media to actually receive that news. When you talk about going to the TV to watch maybe France 24 or RTV, there are very few people that actually go there, maybe, let's say, from the age of growing up, but most of the people in the world are the youth, and most of the youth go to Instagram, to Facebook, to WhatsApp, and everything else, and all those social medias where they can actually receive that news. And at the end of the day, we find that social media's advantages outweigh the disadvantages because of the impact that it has on the people and how the people are able to receive the news and actually acknowledge it and share their research and their work and with all their innovation. Yeah.
Okay, question. What I want to ask you is that what's an alternative to you?
We are not looking for alternatives here. If the judge may correct me, this is not a policy debate, so the alternative shouldn't be used in this.
I'm asking you, what is an alternative?
The fact that before, the way the traditional news was given, right, that there is an adjustment that was made for us to actually get to social media. Social media was the alternative to all the traditional news and gave all the advantages and all the benefits that we're seeing today.
Okay, you told us that you're advocating for an alternative, but you're not advocating for an alternative because we would have told you rather than using social media, let us use drums. But we're telling you, let's make social media one good thing rather than making it a bad thing as the way it is. So
it is a good thing, but the thing is we are learning to improve with social media, to grow with social media, and actually find all those benefits that it has.
So if you're learning is what we need, that you learn more, then you make the social media what we really want.
It is, and it is growing, and it will never stop growing. So at the end of the day, we see that the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. Yes.
Did you hear what our suggestions?
Yes, I did.
Example number one. What was our first suggestion?
You suggested that the government should find a way to remove all those bad things that are giving out with social media and everything.
So, isn't RISA part of our government organization?
It is.
So, to mean that the government is working on the regulations of how social media is being used, to mean that the government also have the regrets, so that's why it brought up the RISA to do what it is doing now as regulating the social medias?
I don't understand why you would regret the social media when actually all those bad things that you're talking about are being filtered out by the RISA. Yeah, thank you.
Time is ticking, and of course the teams are drawing closer to going to the finals. Now, of course, we shall give them 1 minute to prepare their reply speeches, and we'll be back. But in the meantime, hey, don't go away from your screens. We'll be right back.
Okay, so now it's time for the reply speeches, and we'll be starting with the opposition side.
Thank you so much. Once again, I'm Davin from the opposition side, and I'm here to play the simple game of they say this and we say that. So, dear judges, first of all, the proposition side was not able to answer our burden to clearly show that other TV sources had achieved the goal of news distribution, which we as a opposition side clearly showed. And then the proposition side talked about how all TV sources, all news sources have inaccurate news, which actually contradicted their point of social media being the only one with inaccurate news. And as we also, the proposition side was bringing alternatives to the table, which was not really needed. They talked about how the proposition side actually only revolved around false news as their only regret to social media, which we as the opposition side clearly watered down. Our proposition side was unable to really show the negative impacts of social media, as I've said, and only revolved around false news. And proposition side was unable to give a direct status quo of the current people that were using other TV sources. And when we asked, we believe that they just thought of a number and said it. opposition side, we as opposition side showed the impacts of social media in achieving the goal of news distribution and therefore not regretting social media as the primary use of news distribution. Side proposition ended with saying that they wanted better ways of using social media, and that means they actually do not regret it, but they would want that they actually don't regret it and would want would want improvements into social media, which contradicted the whole motion. They were talking about addictiveness, psychological issues, and sensitive things being put on social media, but we as the opposition side showed that it was actually up to the public to filter out what was important for them. They talked about the code of conduct, and we as the opposition side showed that Instagram and other social media platforms already have this code of conduct. Thank you.
Now the proposition side, you can give your reply speech.
So thank you. I'm again coming back from the proposition side to give a reply speech. Simply, I'm going to tell you what world did we create, what world did they create. Then they came and told us, we presented them. Our debate was basically depending on the word regret. To regret is a feeling of disappointment over something that one has done or failed to do, wishing for better. We proved them we failed to achieve the social media that we really wanted, and then we were wishing for better. How were we wishing for better? We proved them what we were wishing for better to do. We didn't bring alternatives as they told us, but we told them what we were requesting, what wishes were we having in order to achieve a better social media as the rise of a primary source of news distribution. Another thing, beginning with what my first speaker said, my first speaker told them about the good of social media. That's why we're saying we're not advocating for an alternative because social media is really good, but we're making some wishes in order to make that social media better, whereby he told us social media is flexible. Social media it gives diversity of sources of information, and then also prove them the harms, the loopholes that are within the social media as reason as to why we're regretting and the reason as to why we're wishing for something in order to beautify the social media. Talked about the ethical conduct of journalism, violating of human rights, and also told us about the addiction. And then my third speaker came and told you gave you the guarantee of, if at all, these wishes that we're making for, we're going to have a better social media as a primary source of news distribution, hence taking away the regret. And then, this wasn't a policy debate. That's why the Random Media Commission is not a policy body. Instead, it's a regulating body. So it makes requests. That's why we're saying we were requesting, we're not bringing alternatives. And yeah, I rest my case.
One more slot remaining for the finals. Who is taking it home? Is it GS Saint Bernadette or Mother Mary International Complex? Well, that's not my decision to make, but rather the judges. So judges, please take your time and go decide. It was an interesting journey right from the knockout stages, the quarterfinals, and now the semi-finals. And only one slot remains for the big finals where we get to know who is the champion. All right, so for the motion, this House regrets the rise of social media as a primary source of news distribution, GS Saint Bernadette as the proposition, the opposition being Mother Mary International School Complex. The judges, Sandrine Umubyeyi, M.A. Cesarano and Joselito. Have you decided who is taking the slot?
This debate was not only about regretting, as the motion says, that this House regrets the rise of social media as a primary source of news distribution. It was also a debate about comparing a word with social media as a primary source of this news distribution. So it wasn't easy, but we based on who tried to convince us more. Yeah, that was basically it.
Thank you very much. Now hand me the results. Neatly folded in a paper. Ladies and gentlemen, the last spot for the finals is going to the opposition side, Mother Mary International Complex. Congratulations to the Mother Mary International School Complex girls. They did a wonderful job. Hey, as I always said before, Mother Mary did do her job. Now, hey, tune in for the finals that will be happening soon on your screen. My name is David, your host, and until next time, goodbye for now.